I've written the story in a reusable writing block format. The CEO laughed when the single dad bought 50 junk cars, then one changed everything. The laughter echoed across the auction yard long after the final bid was placed. Rows of rusted vehicles sat under a gray afternoon sky, their faded paint peeling away like forgotten memories. Most people saw nothing but scrap metal and bad investments, but standing among those broken cars was a single father named Daniel Harper, clutching a folder filled with paperwork and hope. The wealthy CEO standing on the auction platform couldn't stop smiling. To her, Daniel looked ridiculous. A man wearing worn-out work boots, a faded jacket, and carrying the weight of raising a young daughter alone had just spent nearly every dollar he owned buying 50 junk cars that nobody else wanted. People shook their heads. Some laughed. Others whispered that he had finally lost his mind. But none of them knew that one of those cars was about to change everything. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and never giving up when life gets hard, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. Daniel's life had not been easy. 3 years earlier, he had buried his wife after a long battle with illness. Since then, every day had become a struggle to survive. He worked long hours repairing engines at a small neighborhood garage while raising his 10-year-old daughter, Emily. Emily was the reason he kept going. Every morning he woke before sunrise, packed her lunch, braided her hair as best he could, and drove her to school before heading to work. Every night he returned exhausted, but he still helped with homework, cooked dinner, and read bedtime stories. There were days when the bills seemed impossible, days when the refrigerator looked nearly empty, days when Daniel sat alone after fine. Emily fell asleep, staring at overdue notices, and wondering how much longer he could keep everything together. Yet somehow he always found a way, because fathers like Daniel don't quit. They carry burdens nobody sees. They smile through pain nobody understands. And they keep moving forward for the people they love. The auction appeared unexpectedly. A massive automotive corporation was shutting down one of its old storage facilities. Hundreds of damaged, abandoned, and forgotten vehicles were being sold off. The corporation belonged to Victoria Kane, a celebrated CEO known for her ruthless business decisions. Victoria built her reputation by making cold calculations. Profit mattered. Sentiment did not. When her team suggested preserving some of the old vehicles for historical reasons, she laughed. The cars were worthless. At least that is what she believed. Daniel learned about the auction from an old mechanic friend. At first, he ignored it. Then, he discovered something unusual. Among the list of vehicles were dozens of cars connected to a discontinued experimental automotive project from decades earlier. Most people overlooked the information. Daniel did not. For years he had spent his evenings studying automotive history. He loved engines, the way artists love paintings. While researching, he found records suggesting that one of the experimental vehicles from that program had disappeared before entering production. Its location had never been documented. Collectors had searched for it unsuccessfully for years. If the rumors were true, the prototype could be worth a fortune. The problem was that nobody knew which vehicle it was. The only clue suggested it had been mixed among ordinary storage inventory. Long ago, Daniel made a decision that terrified him. He sold nearly everything he could. He emptied his savings. He borrowed carefully against the tiny equity in his house. Then he arrived at the auction and purchased all 50 vehicles, connected to the old project. The crowd thought he was insane. Victoria thought it was hilarious. News of the strange purchase spread online. Videos of the struggling father buying 50 junk cars went viral. Thousands mocked him. Comment sections filled with jokes. People called him desperate. People called him foolish. People called him reckless. Few understood that Daniel wasn't gambling. He was believing. Believing that knowledge mattered. Believing that hard work mattered. Believing that hard work mattered. Believing that sometimes opportunity hides where nobody else is willing to look. The weeks that followed were brutal. Daniel rented a rundown warehouse outside town. Every evening after work, He examined the vehicles one by one. Rust covered many of them. Some had missing engines. Others had shattered windows and collapsed interiors. Many appeared completely worthless. Still, he kept searching night after night, week after week. Emily often sat nearby doing homework while her father worked. The warehouse became their second home. Cold winter air drifted through broken windows. Dust covered everything. Yet father and daughter remained together. Sometimes Daniel felt doubt creeping into his heart. Maybe everyone was right. Maybe he had made a terrible mistake. Maybe he had risked everything for nothing. But each time those thoughts appeared, he looked at Emily. Her belief in him never wavered. She saw not a struggling man surrounded by junk. She saw her hero. Months passed. Money grew tighter. Bills accumulated. The warehouse rent became difficult to pay. Several friends quietly suggested giving up. Even some customers at the garage questioned his judgment. Then one rainy evening, everything changed. Daniel was inspecting the 47th vehicle. It appeared ordinary. Its exterior looked no different from the others. Rust stained. The body panels, the tires had completely deteriorated. The interior smelled of age and neglect. Yet, something felt unusual. A detail hidden beneath layers of grime caught his attention. His pulse quickened. He spent hours carefully removing damaged panels. Then he discovered a small identification plate concealed behind a custom component. His hands trembled. The numbers matched archived records he had studied countless times. He checked again, and again, then once more. There could be no mistake. The vehicle was the missing prototype. The legendary experimental car collectors had searched for decades. The car everyone believed had disappeared forever. Daniel sat silently in the warehouse. For several minutes he simply stared. Years of grief, years of struggle, years of sacrifice. All seemed to collide in that moment. Emily found him sitting beside the car with tears in his eyes. Neither spoke. They simply embraced. For the first time in years, hope felt real. Word spread quickly. Experts arrived from across the country. Automotive historians inspected the vehicle. Their conclusions stunned everyone. The prototype represented a major technological breakthrough that had influenced modern designs. Its historical significance was extraordinary. Collectors entered a bidding war almost immediately. News outlets covered the discovery. Suddenly, the same people who mocked Daniel wanted interviews. The same internet users who laughed now praised his determination. The same experts who dismissed him called him brilliant. And Victoria Kane watched all of it unfold in disbelief. The CEO who had laughed at him now realized what had happened. The corporation had unknowingly sold away one of its most valuable historical assets. Worse still, Daniel legally owned it. Every document was valid. Every transaction was final. There was nothing she could do. The auction contract was airtight. Months later, the prototype sold at a prestigious collector event for a staggering amount. The figure exceeded even Daniel's most optimistic expectations. His financial struggles disappeared overnight. The house was paid off. Emily's future education was secured. The crushing pressure that had followed him for years finally lifted. Yet, the most remarkable part came afterward. Many people expected Daniel to disappear into luxury. Instead, he remembered where he came from. He purchased the struggling garage where he had worked. He expanded it. He hired mechanics who needed second chances. Veterans struggling to find employment. Single parents searching for stable work. Young apprentices looking for guidance. The business flourished. People admired the success. But they admired Daniel even more because wealth had not changed him. Pain had taught him compassion. Struggle had taught him gratitude. And loss had taught him the value of helping others. Meanwhile, Victoria faced an unexpected lesson of her own. For years she had judged people based on appearances. She saw balance sheets instead of human beings. She saw numbers instead of dreams. Watching Daniel succeed forced her to confront something uncomfortable. The man she had laughed at possessed something she lacked: faith. Not blind faith, the kind earned through perseverance, the kind that survives hardship, the kind that keeps moving forward when everyone else says stop. Eventually, Victoria requested a meeting. The encounter surprised many people. She expected resentment. She expected bitterness. Instead, Daniel greeted her with respect. Their conversation lasted hours. For perhaps the first time in her career, Victoria listened more than she spoke. She learned about Emily. She learned about loss. She learned about sacrifice. Most importantly, she learned that greatness often hides behind ordinary faces. The meeting changed her. In the years that followed, her company invested heavily in preservation programs and community initiatives. Employees noticed the difference. Customers noticed too. The woman who once laughed at a struggling father slowly became someone capable of understanding people. And it all began because of 50 junk cars. Today, the restored prototype sits in a museum where thousands admire it every year. Visitors read about its history. Manny never realized that its greatest story isn't about engineering. It is about a father who refused to surrender, a father who believed knowledge and persistence could overcome impossible odds, a father who taught the world that treasures often hide where nobody else bothers to look. Before we reach the ending, I have a special request. Please comment below, never give up. No matter where you are in life, that simple message might encourage someone who desperately needs hope today. As the years passed, Emily grew into a successful engineer inspired by her father's determination. Whenever people asked about the secret behind her success, she always pointed back to that dusty warehouse filled with forgotten vehicles. Because the truth was never about the car. The truth was about courage. The truth was about courage. The courage to keep believing when everyone laughs. The courage to keep working when results seem invisible. The courage to hold on to hope when life gives every reason to let go. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, leave a comment, share it with friends and family, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need a reminder that their breakthrough could be closer than they think. Sometimes the world sees junk. Sometimes the world sees failure. Sometimes the world sees a struggling father standing alone. But every now and then, hidden among 50 broken dreams, there is one opportunity capable of changing everything. And the people who find it are usually the ones who never stopped believing.